Xane Keller was down to his last $20 when the flyer caught his eye. Feed my cat for 1 week. Generous pay. He was pushing a stroller through the Upper East Side, trying to get baby Zuri to sleep while calculating if he had enough gas to make it to his next construction gig. The flyer was taped to a lamppost outside a row of brownstones that looked like they cost more than his entire life. It was handwritten on thick paper, the edges clean, neat, and precise. Just like the woman who must have written it, Zuri stirred in the stroller, grumbling. Xane bent down and gently rocked her. Hang in there, baby girl. Daddy's trying. He stared back at the flyer. Feeding a cat couldn't be that hard, and if generous pay meant even a couple $100, it could cover groceries for the week. Diapers, too. He dialed the number on the flyer before he could second-guess it. Hello. The voice on the other end was smooth but clipped professional. Hey, my name's Xane. I saw your flyer about feeding your cat. I'm interested. I've got experience with animals. Grew up with 2 dogs and a cat. That last part was a stretch. His sister had the cat, but close enough, there was a pause. Are you available to meet today? I leave tomorrow morning. Yeah, I can be there in 20 minutes. She gave him the address. He looked down at Zuri. Guess we're meeting a cat, baby. 20 minutes later, he was standing in front of a tall, ivy-covered townhouse with gold trim on the door and a security camera blinking at him. This place screamed money. He rang the bell. A few seconds passed before the door opened, and there she was. The woman standing in front of him wore a navy blazer over a white silk blouse and heels that probably cost more than his truck. Her hair was perfectly slicked back into a low knot, and she held a tablet in one hand like it was an extension of her arm. But her eyes, green and sharp, narrowed the second they landed on him. You're Xane. He tried not to feel self-conscious about the flannel shirt he'd thrown on over a t-shirt, or the fact that Zuri had a Cheerio stuck to her cheek. Yep, he said, adjusting Zuri's strap. And this is Zuri. Her eyes briefly flicked to the baby, then back to him. I wasn't expecting a child. Don't worry, she'll be with her babysitter if I'm coming over. I just didn't have time to drop her off before this. She studied him for a beat, then stepped aside. Come in. He followed her into the foyer, his boots sinking into plush cream carpeting. The place was massive, sleek, modern, but somehow still warm. A wall of windows bathed the room in sunlight, and a cat as white as snow with one blue eye and one gold sat perched on top of a marble console. That's Cashew, she said. He eats twice a day, wet food in the morning, dry at night. He gets anxious if you don't talk to him, and don't let him near the balcony. Xane nodded, crouching slightly. Hey, Cashew, you're a fancy little guy, huh? Cashew blinked at him, tail flicking. The woman was watching him again. You're not allergic, are you? Nope, and my sister's cat hated everyone. If I survived that, I figure I can handle this guy. She almost smiled. Almost. I'll be gone for 7 days. I'll leave a key with the doorman downstairs. I'll be reachable only in emergencies. Payment will be left in an envelope. Got it. I'll take care of him like he's my own. She looked at Zuri again. For the first time, her expression softened. How old is she? 14 months. She's beautiful. Looks like you. Thanks. He hesitated. I didn't catch your name. She paused. Giana Hale. He held out a hand. Nice to meet you, Giana. She shook it, her grip firm. Likewise. That night, after he dropped Zuri off and returned to the townhouse, he found the key waiting with the doorman in a small envelope and a note. Thank you, Xane. Gee. He didn't expect to see her again, but 3 days later she walked in unannounced. He was sitting on her floor, Cashew sprawled across his lap while he scrolled through job listings on his phone. He looked up, startled. Hey, I didn't know you were back. I forgot my passport, she said, brushing past him toward the hallway. She wore black slacks and a cream trench coat, phone to her ear, barking instructions at someone on the line. Cashew jumped off his lap and trotted to her, meowing. She hung up and crouched to pet him. Good boy, Cashew, you've gotten attached, Xane stood. He likes to listen to jazz. She gave him a look. Seriously. Yeah, I put it on one night and he actually stopped trying to destroy the curtains. To his surprise, she laughed. A short, genuine laugh that made something twist in his chest. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. You're good with him. I try. She looked at him for a moment. What do you do, Xane? I'm a contractor, or I was. Work's been slow. And your daughter's mother, gone, no idea where. Just me and Zuri. The way she looked at him changed. She didn't pity him. She looked impressed. "You're doing all this alone." "Yeah, it's not easy, but she's everything." Giana stared at him for a long moment. "Would you ever consider a full-time job?" He blinked. "Doing what?" "Feeding cats," she smiled. "Not exactly, but I have a company, multiple properties. I could use someone reliable and trustworthy." "You'd hire me." "I don't make offers I don't mean." He hesitated. "Why me?" "I trust people who talk to animals like they're human. And who show up with a baby and don't make excuses." Xane couldn't help but grin. "All right then, I'm in," she nodded, standing. "We can discuss details next week. I have to catch a flight." She turned for the door, then paused. "By the way, you might want to look me up." After she left, Xane did. He nearly dropped his phone when the search loaded. Giana Hale, CEO of Hale Innovations. Net worth over $300 million. He leaned back against her couch. "Cashew," he muttered. "What did I just walk into?" The cat blinked. And Xane had no idea that feeding a stranger's cat would change his whole life. The first official day of Xane's new job began with a security badge, a navy blue polo shirt with the Hale Innovations logo stitched over the chest, and a non-disclosure agreement thicker than a phone book. He signed it at a long glass conference table while a woman with short silver hair and the posture of a former ballerina watched him with mild disapproval. Her name was Margaret, and she introduced herself as Giana's executive coordinator, not assistant, not secretary. Coordinator, with a capital C. "You'll report to me for scheduling," she said crisply. "Miss Hale's calendar is already full through next month, but she's arranged a meeting for you this Friday at 4:30. She doesn't move meetings, ever, so don't be late." "I won't be," Xane said, pocketing the badge. "You'll be working primarily in facilities operations," Margaret continued, walking briskly as he followed her through a hallway with lighting so sleek it looked like it belonged in a museum. "You'll oversee maintenance staff, coordinate with contractors, and supervise on-site build-outs." "Miss Hale said you have experience in construction." 15 years, he said. "Commercial and residential, managed my own crew back in Jersey." "Good, you'll need every bit of it." Hale Innovations owns 5 floors in this building, 2 production warehouses in Brooklyn, and a private event space in Tribeca. I suggest you learn them quickly." She stopped at an elevator and pressed her palm to a scanner. The doors opened without a sound. "Top floor," she said. "That's where your office is," he blinked. "I have an office. Miss Hale doesn't believe in cubicles." The elevator opened to a reception area so quiet he could hear the ticking of the minimalist wall clock. A row of floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a skyline view that made his knees lock for a second. A young man with a headset and a tablet nodded at them, but didn't say anything. Margaret led him past glass-walled conference rooms, a coffee bar that looked like it belonged in an art gallery, and a hallway lined with digital wall panels displaying rotating architectural models. At the end of that hallway was a door labeled Facilities Operations Director. Margaret tapped it open. The office was spacious, with a drafting table, 2 curved monitors, and a set of blueprints already rolled out across the desk. Sunlight poured in through another massive window, and a sleek black chair sat waiting behind the desk. "Your schedule starts tomorrow at 8, Margaret said, handing him a tablet. "Miss Hale has already signed off on your salary. It's been processed." Xane frowned slightly. "I didn't agree to a number yet." Margaret's expression didn't shift. "She assumed you'd find it acceptable." He tapped the screen, his breath caught. That couldn't be right. "Is this per month, per week?" she said. "Benefits begin immediately." "That includes health coverage for your daughter." He looked up, stunned. "She added Zuri." "She doesn't leave loose ends," Margaret said. "Welcome to Hale Innovations." That night, he picked Zuri up from his cousin's apartment in Brooklyn. She reached for him immediately, tiny hands grasping the collar of his jacket, and nuzzled into his neck with a sleepy sigh. "You look like someone just handed you a winning lottery ticket," his cousin Drea said, handing over the diaper bag. Xane laughed under his breath. "It's close. You sure this job's real? You're not getting roped into some pyramid scheme or secret cult, right?" He grinned. "It's real and no cults, just a CEO who apparently doesn't blink at quadruple digits." Drea raised an eyebrow. "She hot?" He paused. Drea's eyes narrowed. "Oh no. Don't tell me it's one of those boss lady situations." "She's..." He shook his head. She's out of my league, like not even in the same sport. Yeah, well, you're a good dad who talks to cats and wears tool belts. That's sexier than half the guys in Manhattan, he chuckled, adjusting Zuri on his hip. I'm not trying to impress her. You don't have to, just be yourself, and maybe fix her sink shirtless or something. He was still smiling when he got home. The next few days passed in a blur of site inspections, vendor meetings, and his first real paycheck that didn't bounce in months. He was good at this, better than he remembered. Something about being relied on again, being in charge, being trusted, it lit something inside him that had been flickering. Friday at 4:25, he stood outside Giana's office, smoothing the front of his shirt. His boots were clean, his beard trimmed. He knocked once. "Come in," came her voice. He stepped in. Her office was a study in controlled elegance, white oak shelves, black marble desk, and a single abstract painting in shades of blue. She didn't look up right away. She was signing something on a tablet. When she finally met his eye, her gaze was sharp but unreadable. "Close the door," she said. He did. "How's your first week?" "Full throttle," he said. "But good, your team's sharp." "They'd better be. I don't hire for charm." He sat when she gestured. There was a pause. "I read your personnel file," she said. "You've managed million-dollar projects with limited teams. You've handled crisis repairs with no downtime, and your turnover rate was the lowest in your region. I didn't know you had my file. I always do my homework." He hesitated. "Was this really about a cat?" Her lips twitched. "Initially, but I noticed how you handled yourself. You didn't ask for anything. You didn't oversell. You were steady." "I didn't think I was auditioning. You weren't. That's why you passed." He leaned back slightly. "So what now?" "I want to move you to internal development," she said. "We're expanding. 10 new properties by the end of next year. I need someone with ground-level instincts, someone who doesn't think like everyone else at this table." "I'm honored," he said slowly, "but why me?" "You barely know me. I know you woke up at 4:30 every morning this week. I know you stayed late Wednesday without being asked. I know your daughter's name and that you keep a photo of her in your tablet case. And I know Cashew still waits by the door every night." He exhaled, not sure what to say. Then she added, "There's a dinner next week. A gala. I need someone at my table who knows how to talk to people without pretending to be someone they're not. You want me to come with you? It's not a date, Xane. It's strategy, but you'll need a tux." He raised an eyebrow. "I've never owned one. I'll send someone." He stood. "You always this direct?" "Yes." He looked at her for a long moment. "I'll be there." She nodded once. "That's all." He left her office, heart thudding harder than it should have, and he had no idea that the gala would be the first crack in the armor she'd spent a lifetime building. The gala was held at the Whitmore Pavilion, a domed marble hall nestled between the river and a sculpture garden that looked like it had been plucked from a European palace. When Xane stepped out of the town car that had picked him up from Dria's apartment, he barely recognized himself. The tux fit like it had been sewn straight onto his frame. Midnight black, sharp lapels, and cufflinks that probably cost more than his truck's transmission. The driver had handed him a sleek envelope on the way over a formal invitation embossed with silver ink and a small card that simply said, "You'll do fine. G." He'd left Zuri with Dria for the night, a backup sitter on standby just in case, but he'd checked in twice already during the ride. His nerves weren't about the tux or the crowd, they were about her. The moment he stepped inside the pavilion, he understood what kind of world she belonged to. Crystal chandeliers floated above like glass constellations. A string quartet played softly near a reflecting pool in the center. Waiters moved soundlessly between guests in black gloves, balancing trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres that looked too delicate to touch. He scanned the room, unsure where to stand, until he saw her descending the side staircase. For a moment, everything hushed. Giana didn't look like the woman who barked into phones or critiqued floor plans with a red pen. Tonight, she was sculpted elegance in a silver gown that shimmered like water beneath moonlight. Her hair was parted low and swept behind one shoulder, and her expression was unreadable as always, but her eyes, when they found him, warmed ever so slightly. "You clean up well," she said, stopping in front of him. "You look like trouble," he replied before he could stop himself. The corner of her mouth curved. "Come with me. The press is circling. I'd rather not give them too much to chew on." He followed her through the crowd, nodding politely to men in velvet jackets and women dripping in diamonds. She moved with the kind of poise that made people part for her without realizing it. When they reached the head table, he noticed the nameplate beside hers, Xane Keller. "You put my name on the table?" "I don't do placeholders," she said, taking her seat. "If you're here, you're meant to be." He sat carefully, scanning the rest of the table. Most of the guests were older, polished, and deep in conversation about tech mergers and international patents. One woman to his right offered a cool smile. "You're not in venture capital," she said, more observation than question. "No," he replied. "I build things with my hands." "Refreshing," she said, then turned back to her glass. Giana leaned toward him once the servers began pouring wine. "If anyone asks, you're overseeing our new infrastructure projects, which, technically, you are. You always this good at managing perception. It's not perception if it's true." Dinner passed in a blur of conversation and courses he couldn't pronounce. Every time Giana spoke, people listened. Not out of fear, but out of fascination. She had a way of commanding attention without demanding it. When she introduced him to a man from a sustainability startup, she placed a hand lightly on Xane's shoulder. "We're lucky to have him," she said simply. After dessert, she pulled him aside near one of the open terraces. The city glittered beyond them, and the soft music faded into the hum of distant traffic. "You handled that well," she said quietly. "I didn't spill anything and I didn't punch anyone." "I'd say that's a win." She turned to face him, her expression unreadable again. "You're not intimidated by any of this, are you?" "I'm not sure what this is yet," he said. "But no, I'm not afraid of rooms like this. I'm just not interested in pretending to be someone I'm not to be let into them." Her gaze held his. "That's exactly why I brought you." He studied her face. "You ever get tired of it?" "Tired of what?" "The performance. The image. Always being the sharpest person in the room." She looked away for a beat, then back at him. "I don't have the luxury of being anything else." "You do now," he said softly. The silence between them stretched. Then her phone buzzed and the spell broke. "I have to take this," she said, glancing at the screen. "Will you be all right on your own? I'll survive." She walked toward the far end of the terrace, voice low and clipped. Xane turned back toward the crowd and caught snippets of conversation. A senator's scandal, a hedge fund's collapse, a designer's secret engagement. It was a different galaxy. He didn't belong here. But for some reason, Giana had brought him into it anyway. Later that night, just after midnight, she found him again, this time outside near the valet circle. The wind had picked up and she'd wrapped a dark shawl around her shoulders. "Let me give you a ride," she said. "I can catch the car," he replied. "I sent it home." "I figured we'd leave together." He hesitated, then nodded. The drive was quiet at first, then after several blocks she spoke. "I wasn't always like this." He looked over at her. "I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment over a laundromat in Queens," she said. "My mother cleaned houses. My father disappeared when I turned 12. Everything I have, I built from zero." He didn't respond. He just listened. "I don't say that often," she added, "but I figured you'd understand." He nodded. "I do." They didn't speak again until the car pulled up in front of his building in Brooklyn. He turned toward her. "I'm not gonna kiss you if that's what you're wondering," he said, half a smile tugging at his mouth. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Who said I was wondering?" He opened the door, stepped out, then turned back. "But if you ever do wonder," he said, "you won't have to ask me twice." She didn't reply. But she didn't look away either, and as he walked into the building, he could still feel her gaze on his back. Xane stepped into the Hale Innovations headquarters the following Monday with a different kind of awareness. He wasn't just here to fix things or manage floor plans anymore. Something had shifted between him and Giana, between the way people looked at him when he walked in, between the way he looked at himself. He'd been upgraded. Not by suits or salaries, but by being seen. The week moved fast. He coordinated a warehouse redesign in Soho, negotiated with a contractor trying to inflate costs, and kept Zuri healthy through a surprise spring cold. He didn't see Giana in person. Her schedule was locked up with board review meetings and a cross-Atlantic acquisition, but she answered his emails within the hour. Always concise, always direct, always with a small detail only someone paying too much attention would notice. On Thursday, Margaret pulled him into her office after a site walk. "Miss Hale wants you in the Tribeca building," she said, passing him a tablet. "The foundation is behind schedule. She wants a full overhaul of the contractor plan. You'll have full authority to reset the timeline, effective when?" Now, he nodded, scanning the specs. "Got it." Margaret paused. "She doesn't delegate like this to anyone." Xane met her gaze. "Then I won't let her down." That night, he worked past 11. The Tribeca site was a mess of permits, delays, and a foreman who'd been phoning it in since January. Xane stood in the middle of the raw space, steel beams overhead, the city humming outside the open windows. He could see it now, what it could become. Not just the building, but the future he hadn't let himself imagine in years. Friday morning, he received a calendar alert, no subject, just a time, 7 p.m., and a location, her townhouse. He arrived 10 minutes early, dressed in dark jeans and a charcoal jacket. He didn't know what to expect, but when the door opened, Giana was barefoot. She wore a soft navy sweater and loose black pants, her hair down, falling in waves over her shoulders. No earrings, no makeup, just her. "I hope you're hungry," she said, stepping aside. He entered slowly. The living room smelled like roasted garlic and something else sweet, maybe caramelized onions. Cashew blinked at him from the arm of the couch, then stretched and trotted over, winding between his legs. "You cooked?" Xane asked, raising an eyebrow. "I hired someone," she said. "But I set the table myself." He followed her to the dining room. A small round table had been moved near the window, 2 settings, a single candle. Jazz played low in the background, not the swingy kind, just something warm and slow. "You wanted a meeting?" he asked, easing into the chair. "No," she said, pouring him a glass of wine. "I wanted dinner." They ate slowly, conversation easy. She asked about Zuri's cold. He told her how she tried to feed her stuffed rabbit soup. He asked about the acquisition. She told him the Swedish team tried to lowball her, so she bought their patent instead. After dessert, she leaned back, studying him. He didn't fidget. He just waited. "You've changed things," she said finally. "How so?" "I built this company to keep people out. To stay in control. Then you walked in with a baby stroller and a toolbox, and now I'm rearranging board meetings for someone who listens to jazz with my cat." He watched her carefully. "Do you regret it?" "No," she said, "but it scares me." He leaned forward. "Why?" "Because I don't know how to do this slowly," she said. "I don't know how to let someone in without handing them everything. You think I'd take advantage of that. I think I've built a life where no one gets the chance. Until now." He didn't reach for her. He didn't say anything comforting. He just said, "Then let me earn it." Her eyes didn't leave his. "What if I already want to give it to you? Then I'll protect it like it's mine." She stood slowly and walked around the table. When he rose, she placed a hand lightly on his chest. "I don't want polished," she said. "I don't want someone who fits into this world. I want someone who makes it feel like home." "You've had that all along," he said. "You just didn't know it." She looked up at him, and for the first time, there was nothing guarded in her eyes. She kissed him, not the kind of kiss that asked for permission, but the kind that answered a question they'd both been too careful to ask. After she rested her forehead against his. "Stay," she whispered. He nodded. The next morning, he woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Cashew purring on his feet. Giana was in the kitchen, hair pulled up, barefoot again. She handed him a mug and nodded toward the window. "Come see." Outside, the skyline was brushed with gold, the city just beginning to stir. "I put in an offer on a property in Brooklyn," she said. He blinked. "You're moving?" "No, you are," she said. "It's got a yard, room for Zuri, quiet street, close to her daycare." He stared at her. "You bought a house. I bought us a home." He put the mug down, walked to her, and wrapped his arms around her. "You really don't do anything halfway, do you? Not when I'm sure." "I'm sure too." They didn't say anything after that. There wasn't anything left to prove. She'd let him in. He'd earned it. Later that week, at a quiet courthouse with Zuri in a white dress and Cashew's paw print stitched into the inside of Giana's jacket, they signed the papers. No press. No announcement, just vows whispered soft and promises neither of them would ever break. Because sometimes, love didn't arrive the way you planned. Sometimes it showed up with a cat, a baby, and a chance you never saw coming. And this time, neither of them let it go. Rain lashed against the windows of the Brooklyn brownstone. But inside it was warm, glowing with soft light, the low hum of jazz playing from a speaker in the corner, and the scent of cinnamon and vanilla coming from the kitchen. Xane stood barefoot, one hand balancing Zuri on his hip as she tugged at the strings of his hoodie, the other flipping a pancake on the griddle. Giana padded into the kitchen wearing one of his old t-shirts, her hair mussed from sleep, a legal pad in one hand and a pen tucked behind her ear. She paused when she saw them, her eyes scanning the scene. Zuri babbling nonsense as she batted at her father's chest, Xane humming something under his breath as he transferred a pancake to a plate shaped like a bunny. Her fingers tightened on the notepad. He looked up. "You've been staring for a full 30 seconds. Either you're sleepwalking or I'm doing something wrong." She set the pad down. "Neither. I was just thinking how strange it is that this already feels like the most permanent thing in my life." Strange in a good way. She picked Zuri up from his arms and kissed her cheek. "Strange in a way that makes me want to cancel every meeting I have today and stay home." "You could," he said. "You're the boss," she groaned. "The board's voting on the Berlin expansion. If I cancel, they'll assume I'm dead." "Then I guess you have to go," he said, sliding the plate toward her. "But you're not leaving without eating." She settled beside him, Zuri nestled on her lap. The little girl had taken to Giana with fierce loyalty, following her from room to room, handing her things as if they were sacred gifts, falling asleep curled tightly into her side. Giana had never said it out loud, but he saw it in the way she looked at Zuri now with a kind of awe and protectiveness that couldn't be faked. "I've been thinking," she said, cutting into her pancake, "about the Tribeca building. I want to give the ground floor to the foundation." He glanced over. "The literacy program. Yes, there's enough room for a full library and tutoring spaces. We'd fund it entirely, but I want you to help design it, something that feels like a second home for kids who don't have one." "You sure?" he asked. "That's prime real estate." "I'm sure. And if I'm going to be the woman who buys her husband a house and steals his daughter's heart, I might as well use my power for good." He laughed. "So I'm your husband now?" She looked at him, eyes steady. "You're not." He reached into the drawer beneath the sink, pulled out a small velvet box and placed it on the counter between them. "I was waiting for the right time, but I think you might have just picked it for me." She opened it slowly. Inside was a ring with a wide platinum band and a single diamond set flush into the metal, nothing flashy, just elegant and solid, like everything he loved about her. "I don't need a ceremony," he said. "We already did the papers, but I want to do the rest of it." "The promise part," she slid the ring on her finger. "Then promise me," he took her hand. "I promise to show up every morning, to love you when it's easy and when it's not, to raise Zuri like she's my own blood, to never make you doubt that I'm right here no matter what." Her voice was quiet. "Then I promise to stop trying to do everything alone, to let you carry some of it, to protect this family with everything I have, and to never forget that I finally found my home." Zuri clapped, completely unaware of the gravity of the moment, and knocked her bottle off the table. Giana laughed, reaching down to retrieve it. "Well, that's our cue." Later that week, the three of them flew to Italy for a long-delayed honeymoon. Giana booked the villa under Xane's name and refused to take a single call for 7 days. They walked through vineyards with Zuri on his shoulders, cooked pasta from scratch in a sunlit kitchen, and danced barefoot on the terrace to a scratchy old record player the owner had left behind. One afternoon, while Zuri napped beneath a linen blanket and the sun dipped low across the hills, Giana turned to him. "There's something I haven't told you." He set his book down. "If it's about the time you made an investment that tanked, Drea already told me," she smiled. "No. It's about something else." He waited. "I found my father," he straightened. "You said he disappeared." He did. "But I hired someone to look. I didn't want to go into motherhood without knowing where I came from." "Do you want to see him?" "I don't think I need to. I just needed to know he didn't vanish because of me." He reached for her hand. "He didn't. People leave because of their own damage, never yours," she nodded. "Thank you for letting me say it out loud." "Anytime." Back in New York, the Tribeca Foundation opened 6 months later. Zuri cut the ribbon with a pair of glittery safety scissors while Giana held her, and Xane read a letter from one of the kids who'd been there since the pilot program began. The mayor showed up. So did half the city's press. But Gianna didn't care about the cameras. She only looked at Xane. Later that evening, after the building had emptied and the lights dimmed, he pulled her into the reading nook where Zuri had already nestled into a beanbag with a stack of picture books. "You know what I realized," he said quietly. You didn't just give me a second chance. You gave me a life I didn't even know I wanted. You gave it to yourself," she said. "I just cleared the space." They kissed beneath the soft glow of the pendant lights while Zuri hummed a lullaby she only half remembered from her baby days. Eventually, they walked home together hand in hand, their daughter between them, the city around them alive and endless. And in the home they built from nothing but trust and timing, they began the kind of life that didn't need to be perfect to be everything they ever wanted.